What's going on, everybody? Welcome to Brutal Planet Comics. I'm your host, Dre the Brute Daniels, and welcome to another episode of the Indie Corner, where I sit down with everybody from the independence community, writers, artists, directors, producers. Doesn't matter if you're in the game, I want to talk to you. So today we have a very, very cool guest. He is the owner of DOJO KUN Comics. Give it up, everybody, for Brian Menard.
Great, thanks for having me on.
Oh, the pleasure is all mine. What is going on, my friend? How are you?
Oh man, I am so busy with this comic book thing that it even gets me in trouble now and then.
You and me both. But before we jump into all your terrific work and all the cool things you're working on, I want to first heartfelt thank you for making the time to come on the show and talk about all this great stuff that you got cooking up.
Oh, my pleasure. I appreciate you having me on.
Absolutely. So before we get into the bulk of your work, 'cause I can't wait to jump into DOJO KUN Comics, but let's get to know you just a touch. It's like where you come from, all that great stuff. Like, how did we get here?
Oh, okay. So born in Detroit, but now live a few hours north. I've been an auditor, a fraud examiner. I'm currently an anti-money laundering specialist. I'm a singer, a dad, a fiance. Lots of great roles in my life.
Okay, lots of hats.
And at one point, years ago, I was a radio disc jockey.
Wow.
And I was a praise team leader at a Baptist church. So,
wow.
Never judge a book by its cover. You never know what somebody's done.
Wow. So you got all the hats. Matter of fact, I might as well give you my do-rag too. You can have that too. Wow, that is really cool. So currently you are a fraud examiner and all that great stuff. So is that what you wanted to do? Like did you go to school for that and then?
Oh,
yes.
How did that work out? I set out. I got a bachelor's degree in finance and 2 associate's degrees. I have 5 certifications that go along with being a fraud examiner. Like, I'm sure most people are familiar with a certified public accountant.
Yes.
But I'm a certified internal auditor, certified fraud examiner, and a few more. I've got more letters after my name than in my name. But so, actually, no, when I first set out, though, I did go to school for accountancy. But and I was working in an accounting firm for a few years, but then through the years, things have graduated. I became a staff accountant to a senior accountant to an auditor to a fraud examiner, and now I'm an anti-money laundering specialist.
Good grief. Elbow deep in all the cash. Wow, that's cool, man. That's cool. So you had all this stacked up education and all that beautiful stuff. So in the midst of all that, like, did you grow up a fan of comics, or how did you end up like getting exposed to the comic world?
Yeah, good question. Well, when I was about 7 years old, we were on our way to Florida, which is about a 2.5-day drive. So we stopped at 7-Eleven to pick up some snacks and all that. And my dad saw me over at the comic book rack and said, "Hey, why don't you pick up a couple of them?" So I picked up Amazing Spider-Man number 196 called Requiem, and Uncanny X-Men 126, How Sharper Than a Serpent's Tooth.
Oh, Uncanny X-Men. That's one of my favorite
right
runs.
There. I mean, we're talking John Romita Sr. on the Spider-Man. And then it was the Claremont Byrne run was my first X-Men. So, right then the love of comics began. So it's been... I don't want to tell you how many years. It's been almost 50 years.
Hide the age, Brian. Hide the age. But that's cool, man. So when you were young, as most of us, the majority of us were exposed to comics and the comic industry at a young age. Like I've said 1,000 times, the moment I came out my mama's womb, I had a Batman comic in my hand. That's pretty much how it worked out. So I was always exposed to it when I was a kid. I watched all the cartoons and
sure.
went to all the cons. It wasn't that many when I was growing up. Wasn't that many cons, but when they came to my town, I had to go. And then years later, I exposed my wife to it. Now she likes to go to the cons and dress up and stuff. So like it is fandom that got me on my course as well. So that's that I'm with you. I'm with you on that. That's pretty cool. So how did you go from being a fan, because we all start off as fans of something, but go from a fan to being a part of the industry? Like how did we transition? How do we close that gap?
Okay, sure. So through 1999, I collected very, very heavily. I collected all Marvel, all DC, Dark Horse, Image,
Wow.
Valiant, and in 1999, my second son was born, and it became financially prohibitive to do that sort of thing. So,
Yeah.
but I thought that it was just too difficult to select what I wanted to continue collecting and what I would stop. So I stopped entirely cold turkey. And I didn't collect for about 14 years. But I got back into the comic book collecting, and I said, but I'm going to do it very reserved. So I selected just a few characters that I would collect: She-Hulk, Juggernaut, Superboy, and Tiger Shark.
Wow.
Those are my favorites at the time. So I have nearly every She-Hulk appearance since 1980,
Wow.
and she's been in 2,700 books. So I have almost all of those. There's only a few, and because I'm a completist collector, I'm actually very livid with companies like Marvel when they do something like Secret Wars 2 #1, and there's 47 variant covers, some of which are store exclusives. So, you know, they only print like, I don't know, say 1,000 of them for Mile High Comics or Midtown Comics. And the day they're on sale, they're 60, 70, $80 because somebody buys them and flips them. And you can't get them for cover price because they're incentive exclusives or whatever. So that makes it very hard for someone like me who's a completist collector. So it's a little defeatist, but, you know, I'll try. Maybe someday I'll get those. But more importantly, I did get, you know, issue 1, the cover A. So I got back into the industry as a somewhat minor collector. And I thought, you know, I've been an entertainer most of my life. I've been a singer. I've been an actor. I said, so, you know, what's another way to get into entertainment? Well, my love of comics, I said, you know, I've been reading them long enough. I'm a writer and a proofreader. I'll give writing a chance. So I wrote a script for She-Hulk, my favorite character, and I polished it. I reread it, edited it several times. And I got it to the point where I thought it was worthy. And then I scoured Marvel's site to see where is their submission guidelines for writers. So, I mean, I looked and looked. It took me a very long time. I found a tiny little paragraph at the bottom of a page that said, you don't. you go get published and we'll find you. Yeah. So I contacted a couple of small press comic book companies. I saw this one site called zwol.org. ZWOL.
I know that site too.
Okay,
I love that site.
It's a great site to connect writers, artists, colorists, letterers, etc.
Yeah.
And there was an ad in there looking for a writer who could also help them with their accounting. I was like,
what's the chances?
I'm like, have we met?
Yeah, what's the chances of that?
So, I mean, it's crazy. So I sent him my resume with all of that stuff I told you about I've done, and my sample script. Now, obviously, it wasn't their character, but they needed to see whether or not I could write. So within the day, they called me and hired me. So I worked for 2 small press companies as a result of that. Nice. I thought that their vision was far too grandiose. They were getting way too big for their britches. And one of the guys wasn't even paying his talent. So I'm like, I'm a fraud examiner. I can't be a part of this. So I stepped away and started my own company, DOJO KUN.
Wow. That's a heck of a journey. That's
I know,
awesome. Right? Yo, but that's crazy. We need a writer and a finance guy. What's the chances of that happening? That's crazy. Destiny speaks. That's awesome, bro. Yo, that's awesome. But to rewind just a touch, I myself am also a huge fan of She-Hulk. I love Jennifer Walters' run. My favorite run actually was the 2002 run of She-Hulk. Me personally, it was my favorite run of her because it really brought up like her cool sassy side, and also really jumped into the whole law aspect of her bit. So it was kind of cool. Like she was like defending heroes while at the same time being a superhero. So she kind of had that balance, even though she is herself all the time. It was still like a balance of duality. So I really liked that run. But
I got a couple of questions for you then.
Talk to me.
All right. Number 1, how do you feel about the fact that she breaks the 4th wall all the time?
So this is my thing. I'm not a big 4th wall breaker guy. I'm not that big on like when Deadpool did it or whatever other characters they want to, that's known for it. But when she does it, it felt like it was actually part of the story and not an interruption or a distraction from said arc. Because usually when a 4th wall breaks, it's like, hey guys, look at what this happened. I'm like, bro, I can see it happen, so I don't need you to tell me that it happened. But it was like an inner monologue type bit. So I'm like, yo, it kind of helps me give me insight on what she was thinking or what she was feeling about a
Okay.
particular situation instead of
Well,
just
that's a
being
good
like,
take on it. Yeah.
yeah, instead of being
You
like, hey,
know,
look, we're wacky, you know what I mean? But it's like,
right.
hey, this is what's happening internally that either could not be put on a panel, well, not in a panel per se, but in a speech bubble or something like of that nature that would either detract from the one-on-one she's having or the situation. So I thought it was done very uniquely. But that's just my take. That's just me.
So it was first, she first started doing that with John Byrne's run. Um, and that was in the late 80s.
Yeah, I was about to say, yeah, late, yeah.
At the same time, Animal Man was doing it as well
Yes.
in DC.
Yep.
But so they were both way before Deadpool ever did. But someone who did it decades before them was Superman.
Really?
At the last page of nearly all of his issues, some kind of comment would be made, and he would say something about, "But that's a secret we all share, isn't it, Lois?" And they would draw him looking at the reader and winking, like he knew we were there.
That's true. That's a good point.
So
Bro. I never thought about it that way. Wow.
Yeah, breaking the fourth wall happened way, way before She-Hulk, Animal Man, and Deadpool.
Yeah, I never reviewed it that way. And I used to like in my father's era, it used to be all the PSAs and all the comics, which technically are fourth wall breaks, I guess, because it is sorta addressing like, hey kids, don't do drugs, you know, whatever.
Right.
You know, but I never considered it that. I never considered that aspect of it either. But that's good, Brian. I never even really considered it that way. That's really good.
Okay, so here's my next question for you about She-Hulk.
Okay.
Did you read John Byrne's run?
The late 80s run of She-Hulk?
Right. Sensational She-Hulk.
Sensational? I never read the entire arc. I never got my hands on all of them.
So as much as I loved his characterization of She-Hulk in the Fantastic Four, and I mean, that is gold standard in my opinion.
I enjoy that.
When he took over Sensational She-Hulk, I personally feel that he was just a little too enamored with his own cleverness, because he made her the butt of jokes. He put in a whole bunch of D or E or F level villains.
That's true.
And the whole thing was like it was a big sitcom.
Yeah,
and
that's true.
At first it was good. It was funny. I appreciated it, but it just kept going and going. And it's like, okay, dude, this is old now.
Yeah.
You know, it's not so funny anymore. But then he stepped away for quite a while. And then the art, of course, is substandard to somebody like Byrne. So it was difficult to stay on it. But because I like the character so much, I did. And then, let's see, there was one other question about She-Hulk. Oh, yes.
Before you ask your question there, Brian, yes, maybe you can help me out here. Maybe you can help me out as far as She-Hulk lore of that era. Mm-hmm. I always felt that her rogues gallery was subpar. I always felt that it was subpar to like her contemporaries or whatever
Absolutely.
the case may be. Why do you think that was done that way? I mean, that's just my personal feeling. Like you said, a lot of them are D-listers, E-listers when it comes to like her villains. Why do you think that was put that way? Do you think because it was just for jokes and just for kicks, and that's why they kind of wrote it that way? Because it wasn't going to be taken seriously?
I do think that that's a big majority of it, but I also think it's possible that they were trying to keep the copyrights of the characters, so they would grab all of these little known characters and make sure that they appeared in some issues so as to keep their copyright alive.
Okay.
Like, would you expect to see Machismo or Man Elephant or Sprag the Living Hill?
Fair enough. Fair enough. That's true. That would do it. That'll save some money. I'll do that. Yeah, it's a good point, Brian. So yes, please. What's your question, Brian?
Okay, so the last one, and we can move on.
All right.
In the graphic novel, she was exposed to a whole bunch of radiation, and Reed Richards is shown to be like examining her, and he said, "Jennifer, I've got some good news and bad news. The good news is it doesn't seem there's going to be any lasting ill effects from this radiation. After all, you got your powers from irradiated blood, and you cannot revert to Jennifer Walters form. You are She-Hulk from now on." And there was a couple of silent panels, and then she said, "So what's the bad news?" So that, I think, was, great storytelling.
I agree.
Because too many superheroes, particularly in that era, were too angst-ridden. They didn't want to be heroes. They felt forced to be heroes. She-Hulk revels in it. She loves being a hero.
Yes.
That is how I believe a lot of people would be.
I agree because she believes that She-Hulk makes her whole. That's because it's about like who she was on the inside is now on the outside. And
exactly.
And I think that's why I was always drawn to her, because she's a unique, because she is, if you want to classify, a monster, but she is in love with what she is. Unlike her cousin, unlike Bruce, of course, is always trying to get rid of the Hulk. Of course, like, hey, I want to get rid of it. I want to live in peace and all that stuff. She was like, no, this is beautiful. Look at me. I love. Look, I'm tall. I'm strong. I'm green and mean, baby. You like, see, that's like that. And I think that's why I love her character so much. And I think that's why when newer writers deviate from her core value of who she is, being a beautiful, sexy, all powerful, just I don't take no mess, but I'm still cool as ice. Like when they deviate from, I'm like, yo, what are you doing? Like, this is what makes her great. This is what makes her
great formula. Don't mess with that.
Exactly. That's like change it. Hey, you know what? No more peanut butter and jelly. Okay, no more. It's gonna be cream cheese and walnuts. Okay, that's like what are you talking about? But I just that recipe, for Jennifer Walters, She-Hulk, is beautiful, great, and I think it shouldn't be touched. That's just me. I mean, I guess I'm a purist in that way, but I think it's perfect, and I don't think it should be.
Well, since you're a big fan, maybe I should send you that sample script and see what you think.
Oh, please send it my way. I'd love to. Okay, I can talk about this all day, Brian. Okay, I can talk about this all day. So let's talk about what you've got cooking up here at DOJO KUN Comics. Now, before you even jump into all the cool stuff that you're working on, what in the world does this name mean? You gotta help a brother out here.
Okay, yeah, no problem. It's Japanese. And obviously, most people know what a dojo is. It's martial arts school.
Yes.
I started karate in college. So the DOJO KUN are the 5 tenets of the karate dojo. Oh. The first of which is Hitotsu Jikanku Kensei no Suto Morokoto.
Okay.
So, yeah, I won't go through all 5 of them in Japanese, so I'll tell them to you in English.
Okay.
The first one is to be faithful.
Okay.
There's respect others. There is seek perfection of character. There is endeavor, which as comic book creators, we're doing that. We are endeavoring to chase our dreams. That's one example. And the last one sounds contradictory, but stay with me here. It's avoid violent behavior. Now, Jinshin Funakoshi, who created Shotokan Karate, said the greatest fight ever won is the fight not begun. Basically, he wants you to avoid it at all costs. But if, in fact, you are forced to defend yourself, now you know how.
Yeah.
Better to be a warrior in a garden than a gardener in a war.
Agreed. Because karate is primarily defensive, is it not?
Exactly.
It's a defensive technique. Yeah, I used to study different martial arts. I studied, mostly Greco-Roman wrestling, but then I ended up studying Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu.
BJJ is very popular. Yeah.
Yeah, I used
very
to
good choice there.
Yeah.
My son and I did Tank Sudo for a couple of years too.
Okay, look at you, bro. Like you said, don't judge the book by its cover, brother. I see you. Right. I see you. That's dope. So we got DOJO KUN Comics. So what are you guys cooking up over there? Okay,
so yeah, I've been a publisher for 6 years now. I told you I started my company a while ago. We published 12 comic books of various types, a 4-issue miniseries called Siamese, a one-shot called The Loved Ones, which was a horror comic book. There's a whole bunch on my site. And one day I was on Facebook posting a bunch of my characters, and somebody said, bro, you shouldn't be doing that. Somebody's going to steal it unless you're published. I'm like, oh, dude, I'm published. So I showed him my website. He's like, oh, wow, this is awesome. You should join the YouTube community and, maybe do some crowdfunding. And I'm like, I don't even know what that is. Talk to me. So
what are these words?
Yeah, right. So I joined I got into the chat on a lot of YouTube shows. I found them to be welcoming, warmth, encouraging, supportive. Like, this is freaking awesome. I love this group. So then I learned what crowdfunding was all about. So what I did was I grabbed those 4 issues of Siamese and I put them into a trade paperback and I crowdfunded that to recoup that cost, because previous to that, this was all out of pocket.
Yeah.
And this gets really, really expensive. Now, a lot of hobbyists, maybe you're a car guy, maybe you're a golfer, maybe you're a fisherman, a hunter. A lot of those things can be very expensive with all of the ammunition and the equipment and all that. So this is just my version in the hopes someday that it'll actually make me money back, right? Well, up until then, it wasn't. Okay. But with my first crowdfunding, I funded within 3 days.
Oh, nice.
And then I'm fulfilled with Siamese. It's out. It was going to break even, which is good for your first campaign. I'll be honest.
Very good.
That was great. But then the postage to Australia killed me. A comic that would have cost $25 to send to Australia, which is what I charged my customers or backers, was $75 to send to them.
Oh.
So yeah, I had to eat that cost because it's not their fault, and I had already charged them for shipping. So that started really eating into any money that was being made. I mean, lesson learned.
Yeah.
And the Aussies, they're like, I'm going to have to ask if you could put a digital tier on your future campaigns. That would be best, because I want to read your stuff. I just don't want to pay 3 times the amount for shipping that I am for the book.
Exactly.
I'm like, totally get it, So so I crowdfunded Siamese, and now to get to your question after a roundabout way, I got 2 campaigns live right now.
Okay.
One is called To'uro'u Tales. It looks like toro, but toro is the Spanish word for bull. But To'uro'u is the stone lantern that you see in my company's logo. It's this Japanese stone lantern. So the To'uro'u Tales is an anthology book. It's 88 pages in full color. It's got 9 different stories in it, featuring the debut of 10 different superheroes from my connected superhero universe. It's got 5 different writers, 9 artists, 7 colorists, and 5 letterers.
Good Lord, you got an army.
Yeah, I got a whole bunch of people. It's very international.
Wow.
Some of the folks are from Russia, Philippines, Brazil, so from all over. And the characters are from a wide variety of nationalities and even religions. One of the characters is Buddhist.
Okay.
So, I try to include a cross section of humanity because that's what people are. And it's great to keep that in front of readers.
Indeed.
If a kid picks it up, I want them to see. Now, I'm not saying that I want people to see themselves represented, because that's crazy. Yeah. I just want people to see a cross section of humanity without trying to force any lesson.
Agreed. I agree.
Here are characters, and maybe their skin is brown and their eyes are brown, and this other guy is blonde, and that part is just attributes. It has nothing to do with what they do or who they are, other than maybe some of their upbringing. But I'm not going to disingenuously say that I know what it's like to be a person of color, because you can see how pale I am, right? But that doesn't mean I don't want those characters in there, because that's great. I've got a character called Canadian Shield, okay? And he makes his debut in To'uro'u Tales. He's fully armored, and he is Canadian. He's in the Royal Canadian Mounted Police. And he's a person of color. But that's going to be, I think, a shock to some readers when he takes off his helmet, because there's no indication of that before that. There shouldn't be. Why? Yeah.
And Brian, I could not agree more. And it's with the climate that we live in now, and everything has to be color this or whatever the case may be. Look, as you can see, Brian, I've been black a long time. Okay. And
it's not a new development.
It's not a new development. This is not breaking news for anybody. And I've never liked the idea of putting color just to say that there's color there. I've always liked the fact of, like, hey, this person happens to be of color.
Right.
I like that more than look how much color he has. I even when growing up, was there a prevalent amount of all black heroes everywhere? No, like we had Luke Cage or Falcon. We had some there. We had some Icon. Like the characters exist and stuff like that. But I didn't have to see their skin color for me to relate to them. Right. Like I related to Peter Parker, and I saw a white kid from Queens. I mean, It didn't dawn on me like, oh man, I can only relate to him if he was black. That doesn't even cross my mind. But I love what you said. I love the fact that you're like, hey, there's a color spectrum here. However, that's not the point. The point is, hey, we have good characters, we have good stories, we have good plots, and these people happen to be of color. Yep. Not they're of color that have good story. And I could not. It is refreshing, Brian. it is refreshing to hear other creators, and a lot of other creators have expressed this to me as well. But I love hearing that, because I love the fact that it's character first. Because in my for me, there's only one race, the human race, and we all just come in different colors.
Thank you.
That's just me.
I mean, if you
And
go back far enough, the color of our skin has to do with the climate that we
exactly,
raised.
exactly.
I mean, if you were raised in northern Sweden, you wouldn't be black.
Mm-mm.
If I was raised in, Rwanda, I probably wouldn't be white.
You sure
But
wouldn't.
we're talking going way, way back
Mhm.
in history.
Mhm.
The sun and climate is what changed us.
Yep, that's what
We
changes
are a
pigmentation.
one race.
Yeah, we're the human race, and I could not appreciate. Brian, you have no idea how much I appreciate. Yeah,
Thank you.
I mean, you don't know how much I appreciate hearing that. But that's awesome. That's awesome. So, all right, so that sounds amazing. I love. I gotta make sure I say that word right. DOJO Kun. I love it. I love everything that you guys are cooking up. So, what are y'all working on right now?
Okay, right now, in addition to that campaign, To'urou Tales, we've also got one called The Shifter. It's a license that I got from an award-winning novelist named Janice Hardy. My wife had read these novels and said, Brian, I think you'd really enjoy these. You should give it a try. It was a quick read. It's largely geared toward a young adult audience like The Hunger Games or Divergent.
Mm-hmm.
The protagonist is a woman named Naya, actually a young woman, like in her teens. And she goes through the hero's journey, which is a great way to write a story.
Awesome.
I enjoyed it enough that I mentioned to my friend Steve, who said, oh, yeah, I read that. Do you want to talk to the author?
Oh.
I was like, how do you know the author? He said, well, I work with her husband. I'm like, awesome. Yeah, put me in touch. So she and I talked. I proposed adapting her novels into graphic novel form. And she and her husband are professed geeks, and she loved the idea. So we're doing that. I'm adapting. She's got 3 novels in this trilogy called The Healing Wars. And each one is going to be represented by 2 graphic novels.
Okay.
So I've got the best editor ever on this. It's the original author of the IP, right?
And that's you can't get no better than that.
Right. So I sent her my scripts, boiling it down to a comic book form because she's got 17,000 words, and I've got to get it into a comic book without blurring the panels with exposition. So I still go by my no more than 25 words in a panel. Okay. If you can't say it in 25 words, you need to move 2 panels. You've got to make, you know what I mean? So yeah, great editor in the Janice Hardy herself. My artist is Brazilian, Zilson Costa. He did issues number 3 and 4 of Siamese, so he and I have been working together for years. My colorist is H.D. Tobalina from Spain. And I now have to look for a new letterer. He just sort of bowed out today. So
wow.
Yeah, it's unfortunate. I'm disappointed, but things happen like that. So I'm sure I can find another great letterer. So To'urou Tales is complete. It's done. So you can back that with confidence. As soon as the campaign is over, I order the stretch goals and add-ons, and we're good to go.
Sweet.
Now, The Shifter, on the other hand, is not. That one there is quite a bit more expensive. The artist is his page rate is a little higher. I wanted really high quality because he's going to be doing the whole book. It's not an anthology, and he's fast. So that's the good part.
Oh, that's excellent.
Yes, the art's not done, but once this thing is crowdfunded and I can tell him, just start cranking out the pages, he's really good at doing that. So I'm very confident that this will fulfill by the end of the year, like I said. Awesome. And so I've got 2 campaigns going at once here. I'm hoping I didn't shoot myself in the foot with that, because some people are saying, "Oh, you're just money hungry." No. What I want is, these are 2 very, very separate things. One is in my connected superhero universe. The other is this license I got. I just wanted to make sure that these both got out there so that these projects can roll, and I can start fulfilling and making sure that sometimes I can't even type fast enough to get my ideas down. So
you ain't the only one.
I want to get these out there and get fan feedback and all that to see if I'm on the right path.
Good move, Brian. Good move. You cooking with fire, brother. You cooking with fire. That's what's up. That's what's up. I'm so glad to see all the moves you guys are making. Y'all doing. Y'all getting it done. As I like to say on the show all the time, y'all doing the Lord's work. That is what's up, man. That's cool. That's cool. Amen. So where can folks find your work at? Where can they get their hands on it?
So on Indiegogo, if you look for To'urou Tales, and you don't have to use the special O's with the line across the top, you can just type Toro, Toro. That campaign will come up on Indiegogo. And then if you want to find the other, it's called The Healing Wars. And that's how you can find that on Indiegogo. If you want to look at my back catalog and all of the things that are coming up with Dojo Kun Comics, it's pretty easy. It's dojokuncomics.wixsite.com/Dojo Kun Comics.
Okay, sweet. So I'm going to leave all those great links in the description section below. Everybody, check out my boy Brian Menard's work. He is doing fantastic things over there at DOJO KUN COMICS. Brian, I would like to thank you wholeheartedly from the bottom of my soul for making the time to come and rap with me. This was a whole lot of fun for me.
It was indeed. Thank you so much.
Oh, absolutely. And this will not be the last time we speak, my friend. Make no mistake about that. But thank you.
Looking forward to it.
Oh, thank you so very much. So everybody, that is Brian Menard. Check out all his work, as I mentioned before. It is in the description section below. And you already know who I am. I'm Trey the Brute Daniels. Follow me on all my dope social media platforms I'll put right under my face. They're not there yet, but they will be. At TheBrute00 on Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, and if I feel like being silly, on TikTok. And don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe, and share the vid. You all have been awesome. I will catch you all next time. Also, if you want to support my channel, check out spinwiz.com or download the Spinwiz app and check out my comic series, Trouble. It was written with a lot of love, and it was definitely my favorite comic series to write. I've also written it in English and in Spanish, so whatever floats your boat, I got it for you. Thanks again, and check it out.